Hello there, Commonwealth from here with writing help from Nintendo. Sonic the Hedgehog's over 30-year-long history has been spotty to say the least. Even in its anniversary year, we'll remember what happened with Sonic Colors Ultimate on Switch, and Sonic Origins was also a bit disastrous at launch. Luckily, in 2017, we had both a good Sonic game and a less good one. With all that in mind, where do we land on the most ambitious open zone Sonic Frontiers? Not only that, on the Nintendo Switch. Well, be sure to leave a like, subscribe and press the notification bell as we dive into this brutally honest review of the first new 3D Sonic game in 5 years, Sonic Frontiers. For starters, this is actually quite an interesting Sonic game, meaning it defeats 2017 Sonic Forces quite easily. Okay, jabs aside, it turns out that Sonic Frontiers is actually enjoyable, but would we recommend playing it on the Switch? Let's just cover what we have in the game first. Sonic Frontiers takes place on the Starfall Islands, a new place in the Sonicverse. It is there that the Chaos Emeralds have decided to reside. Why? Well, that is the big question mark looming over this entire situation, unless you follow Sonic's Twitter and YouTube channels and have read or watched the prologue. Anyway, Sonic, Tails and Amy travel to this destination, but before they even get there, an energy field renders their plane completely useless. They fall into a mysterious portal and get separated. Sonic quickly realizes that their friends are trapped in a weird dimension and goes off to save them. What does he need to fulfill this newly made promise? The Chaos Emeralds, which Sonic has to obtain again and again on every island to progress to the next area. The mystery of what is causing all this to happen stays hidden for quite a while. You don't get many answers despite the mysterious girl and Dr. Eggman seemingly working together. It makes the progression of the story have less direct stakes outside of saving Sonic's friends. Sonic Frontiers' plot seems to be a ploy to keep the action going. Unlike, say, Sonic Colors though, you'd expect there to simply be more story to understand why we're traveling from place to place. Then again, this is a title that is clearly inspired from The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and we all know how the story was structured in that game. The voice actors when present bring their absolute A-game though. Roger Craig Smith returns as Sonic, and he's more reassured than ever before.
I've been infused with weird zappy stuff before. Besides, I feel like it gave me some kind of boost.
Sonic seems to have a bit more of an edge, not unlike Sonic in the Boom TV show. He's always cracking jokes, particularly in situations that seem quite dire. Sonic is just as confused as we are, and after asking a question or two out loud, he simply moves on to what is next on the agenda. Once again, this stuff doesn't go much further than skin deep, and we thought that was fine. Some, however, might have hoped for a little more in this department. The gameplay has many highlights, but also a few surprising lowlights. First things first, Sonic feels quite nice to control in practice. By using Sonic's speedy moves, it is highly entertaining to explore the far-stretching plains of Starfall Islands. You will hold the boost with ZR, or glide between the various environmental pieces. Those pieces will let you partake in a fight, platforming challenge, or maybe even a puzzle. Players are free to take their own approach when it comes to controlling the Blue Hedgehog. There are speed and action-based options available, allowing gamers their own way of getting through the journey. In addition, there are also different difficulty sliders, allowing many kinds of players to come in and enjoy. Sonic feels quite good in these open areas, as you have the room to come and go as you please. Starfall Island might not be the most densely packed, but there's plenty of fun to be had. It doesn't take long before you see an activity, participate and move on to the next one in sight. That is when Sonic Frontiers really comes into its own and makes a particular great impression. Each of the worlds in Starfall Islands offer up their own environments, surprises, and overall feel that makes this game stick. While playing, you always want to push yourself a tiny bit further. Similar praise can be given to the boost levels, or cyberspace levels as they are called in this game. Between the open stretches of gameplay, there's nothing nicer than going at full speed from point A to B and simply fulfilling the 4 goals found in each of these. The levels go over Sonic's storied past, which has a story reason that we're not going to disclose in this video, and are played at different speeds and angles. In addition to the goals, there are also 5 red coins to collect to really test your mettle. It is good fun. That being said, in the boost levels particularly, you will notice one major flaw. You see, the previous boost games were pretty good in allowing you to drift across curvy passageways. For some reason, and it is really hard to understand why, they removed the ability to drift as Sonic altogether. In a few sections, in literally the first cyberspace level, it immediately feels like a major miss. You see, the boost levels require you to reach S rank times, so a fraction of a second is crucial here. By being slightly more limited in options, it makes some of the cyberspace levels worse. Now this doesn't happen in every level, and some are even too deep, but the fact that the problem is there in the first place is fully unacceptable. Then there is the combat, which is a bit of a mixed bag. Not in terms of being awful, mind you, many of the encounters with the regular robot enemies and their Titan equivalents, aka the bosses, are legitimately fun to play around with. That being said, we really felt that the pool of moves was a bit too small. We were constantly relying on the same mechanics to get by, which made combos just a tiny bit stale. It is still a challenge to use them correctly, and we don't take anything away from that, but it just feels like there could have been a tiny smidge more to make it more fleshed out. We didn't get annoyed or frustrated by anything related to the combat, but more tools is more fun 9 times out of 10. If there's anything that describes Sonic Frontiers well, we would say action to reaction, and then back to action. Like, think about it, you will participate in an activity or fight, which gets one of several rewards. After receiving the reward, you're inclined to use it in a matter of ways. Sonic stats like the amount of rings you can hold and speed are upgradable by collecting the right trinkets. In addition to stats, there's also a small but acceptable skill tree that nets you a new skill once in a while. That is, if you manage to get the experience diamonds. The same goes for the cyberspace levels. Once you complete goals, you receive keys that will allow you to pick a Chaos Emerald. The constant slew of rewards is what makes Sonic Frontiers so appealing and a joy to tinker with. Yet now, let's address the elephant in the room. Yes, we played it on a Nintendo Switch. Now, as a handheld version of the game, it is impressive that this entire game fits in your pocket, and Sega should be commended for making it run as such. That being said, if you want to play it on a console, the Nintendo Switch might not be the best choice. As graphically, the game takes a huge hit. While it is still colorful, the port is honestly a bit rough in most aspects. Is it playable though? Absolutely, but if you want to play it mostly in the dock, that is to say on the TV, there might be better options for you. The reason is that the resolution of the game is the same docked and undocked, aimed at 720p, which speaks for itself, looks far better on a smaller display than on a 40-inch or bigger Full HD, and even more so 4K TV. Also, when it comes to masking certain more blurry details in the distance. When it comes to performance, the game dips a bit from its aimed 30 frames per second. No, it isn't a disaster like Alan Wake, but it also isn't as steady like the excellent Nier Automata Switch ports. Once again, it is absolutely playable, and if it is your only shot, then it is worth considering. If you're expecting 60 frames per second smooth Sonic speed on this console, then sadly this experience isn't for you, as that is only found on PC, PS5 and Xbox Series. But regardless of where you decide to play Sonic Frontiers, there will be pop-in to deal with no matter where. Yes, the pop-in on the Nintendo Switch is very noticeable, but it isn't very unlike the other consoles. Even the PlayStation 5 version falters a bit in this regard, so please take that under advisement. In the vacuum though, Sonic Frontiers is perfectly playable on Nintendo Switch. It is still colorful and bright, and the linear cyberspace levels look absolutely wonderful. Open world, or if you prefer open zones, are handled to the best of the console's abilities, but the shortcomings aren't hidden as well as perhaps other games here. The visual fidelity is rough, and there's no mistaking that. All in all, however, we had a good time with Sonic Frontiers. Despite its visual shortcomings on the Switch and the severe lack of drifting option, the game passed us by at a relatively decent pace. The different islands steal the show with a lot to do, explore and muse over, while the cyberspace levels and combat are equally intriguing, but there's blemishes in each part of the package. Despite that, we never ended up as frustrated with Sonic Frontiers, which is frankly the biggest surprise and accomplishment of the whole thing. Is the score for the Switch version different from the one we would have given the PC, PS5 and Xbox Series versions of the game? Yes, as those versions are around 78 out of 100, while the Switch version is slightly below with a final score. It all comes down to performance, especially when docked to modern TVs. If you only have a Nintendo Switch, play the game undocked. You will enjoy it more that way. No matter what, this is still miles better than Sonic Forces could ever dream to be back in 2017. And on that note, that is our brutally honest review of Sonic Frontiers on the Nintendo Switch. Are you picking up this game, or do you think it is first worth picking up on sale? Sound off in the comment section down below. We have one more video tied to this game planned this week, so be sure to leave a like, subscribe and press the notification bell to not miss that one. Last but not least, a big thanks to all of you for watching until the end, and to all our patreon.com/Kameraon patrons, and in particular our role producer Charles. You rock, and please enjoy one or both of these two awesome videos.